Hello and welcome back to One Way Designs 238. If this is your first time here, I'd like to say welcome, and I do hope that you will consider sticking around by subscribing and turning on your notification bell to all. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. Today is episode 3 of my Festive Holiday series. So jumping right into DIY number 1, I'm going to start off with this really nice gift bag that I picked up from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to remove the front portion or the front artwork away from the rest of the bag with my crafting knife. Dollar Tree has really come up this year with their designs for their gift bags. They have a lot of gift bags that are really nice. So once the front portion of my bag has been removed, I'm simply going to take it and I'm going to square it up, making it nice and even. And by doing so, I'm going to trim away that excess paper. Now, don't throw away that paper because you can definitely use this for something else. I've gotten into paper crafting, and this is a really nice grade of paper, and I know I can use this for something else. So once this piece has been squared up, I'm going to go ahead and set this aside, and I'm going to bring in 4 of the larger planks, wooden planks that is, from the Dollar Tree. And to attach these or adhere them together, I am simply going to take the gel super glue, yes, super glue. I'm going to run this along one edge and attach 2 of these together. Once I have attached them together, I'm simply going to go ahead and take some masking tape and run this over the seam to make sure that everything is nice and solid while the glue is setting up. Now, I got this particular technique from Megan over at Glue Guns and Roses. If you don't know who she is, please go check her out. I promise you will enjoy her channel as I have. So I'm going to go ahead and I attach the other 2 so that we have one solid piece of 4 boards all together. Now, you don't have to remove the masking tape because what I did is on the back side, I have the masking tape going completely across those seams, but on the front portion, I only put them right directly in the middle. Just again to be sure that everything was nice and tight while the glue was setting up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my antiquing wax, and I'm going to take this antiquing wax and I'm going to rub this into the grain of the wood so that the grain of the wood can be seen and it really shines and you can really see the beauty of the wood. Now, if you don't like using antiquing wax, please feel free to use your favorite stain, your favorite varnish. You could even use a watered down acrylic paint. The choice is completely yours. So once I have done the antiquing wax portion of this, you notice I didn't even go all the way through the middle portion of this because my artwork is going to be right there in the middle. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry brush some of this white chalk paint by Waverly. And it does not have to be chalk paint. It can also be white acrylic paint. But I just happen to have chalk paint out at the time. So what I'm going to do is dry brush, and that technique is exactly what it says. I'm taking a dry brush, tapping into my paint, taking off the excess, and I'm just simply stroking it across the front portion of my project. Now, what this does is for a lot of creators, they do this to give it a distressed look, but for me, it gives more of a snowy effect than a distressed look. Now, what I did learn while doing this is that if you do not allow your antiquing wax or your stain to completely dry, your white paint will pick up tones from whatever varnished or stain or antiquing wax that you did use. But for me, it was a happy surprise. But if you like that stark white look, then please do allow your piece to completely dry. So once I have finished doing the distressing portion, I am going to now bring in that piece of gift bag paper, and I'm going to line this up where I want it to sit directly in the middle of my planks. So to do so, I'm just simply going to mark each corner so that when I go to attach it, I can put it exactly where it needs to be. Or a piece of art that is to our planks, I'm just simply going to bring in some Mod Podge and I'm going to lay down a nice even layer of this on the back of the paper so that I can attach it to my board. Now, if you don't have Mod Podge, you could always use regular school glue. If you don't have regular school glue, you can also use glue sticks. You can also use a hot glue gun. Again, the possibilities are endless. While I'm placing the Mod Podge on the back of the paper, again, I am being quite generous with the amount because the more that you are generous with it, you have a little bit more wiggle room versus, putting the less amount of it, then you don't have much wiggle room. So once I have put the Mod Podge on the back of the paper, now I can take my artwork and I can place it exactly where it needs to be, again, because that's where I marked it on my planks. So if your edges come up, feel free again to take your paintbrush or your glue gun, your glue stick, whatever you use, and just simply running along those edges to make sure that everything is nice and flat. So once I have it down, I'm just going to rub out any air bubbles that I have, any wrinkles, just to make sure that everything is nice and flat. So once I got to looking at this, I felt like it needed a little bit more texture because it was a little too flat and a little too plain for me. So what I did was I took some of this thicker gauge jute twine that I picked up from Walmart, and I'm simply going to go ahead and create a border around our actual piece of artwork. And again, for me, this adds more texture and it adds just another element. It takes it to like the next level. Now, if you wanted to turn this into more of a glam look, you could always use diamond wrap cut down into individual strips, or you could also use wooden beads if you would like to. If you don't want to use either one of those, you can also use some of those Mardi Gras beads. The choice is completely yours. So now I know you see these holes that are in on the sides of our planks. So I'm not going to fill these with spackle or wood putty. What I'm going to do is take this really nice gold and red ribbon that I picked up from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just simply going to cover those holes up. What this is going to do is, again, cover the holes, but it's also going to give us a nice frame or a border or trim, so to speak. So when the ends or the corners, excuse me, crisscross, you will see how it gives like a peekaboo effect for the wood in the corners, and it's really nice. So when you cut your ribbon, you want to cut it off a little bit longer than what you needed so that when you go to wrap this around the back, you can wrap it around the back and glue it to the back, and this will cut down on the fraying of your ribbon. So now I'm simply going to take some greens, some berries, and I'm just going to decorate this, and I'll let you see it at the end. So jumping into DIY number 2, I have this star ornament that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. I'm simply going to take my crafting tool, my scraper, and I'm just going to pry this apart. So you get 2 stars for the price of 1. I noticed that the front of my star did have some of the glitter missing. So what I've done is just simply taken a small brush and I'm just going to take some Mod Podge and I'm just going to run this over the areas to where the glitter is missing, and I'll just take more glitter that I have and just simply replace that. Now, at this point, if you don't want silver, you could definitely use gold. Or if you like red, you could use red. If you like blue, you can use blue. Now is the time to go ahead and really change up the color of the glitter that you use. And if you don't want to use glitter, you could also always just simply cover it up with any other color that you would like. So I got these wooden trays from Hobby Lobby. They came $15, but I got them 40% off, and they do come 3 in a pack. So what I've done is simply, again, bringing in my antiquing wax, and I am going to go ahead and make sure that I get the top portion of the frame, the inner portion of the frame, the outer portion of the frame, and a little bit of the back as well. Rubbing it into the grain of the wood so that that natural grain can really pull through. So now once that's done with the antiquing wax, I'm going to take this buffalo check placemat that did pick up from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just simply going to cut it out to make it fit right into the center of this frame. When I say this project is so simple, but it is such an impact, you guys. So once I have it figured out where it needs to be cut, I'm just simply going to go ahead and cut out my square. And I'm, again, not going to throw away the excess of that placemat because we can use it for something else. So once I have my square cut out, I am going to bring my frame or my tray back in, and I'm just simply going to take my hot glue and I'm going to glue this around the perimeters or the inner perimeters of this box or tray, and this will allow my placemat to be adhered to it. You guys, if you are enjoying today's video, please let me know so by giving me a thumbs up, and please leave me a comment. I love chit-chatting with you guys. And also when you give me a thumbs up, that lets me know that you are enjoying what I'm bringing to you. So now once this step of adhering the placemat to the inside portion of our frame is complete, what I'm going to do now is bring in some of these branches that I picked up from Hobby Lobby. They're not really branches. They are, I don't know what you call them. They're basically branches, but they have the wire in the middle. And what I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to line the inner, again, perimeter where the fabric meets the wood, and I'm going to line that around the inside. You guys, when I say this is simple, it's like really simple, but it's so high end and it's so nice. Now, if you can't find these at Dollar Tree, again, Hobby Lobby does have these branches. Me personally, I like the ones from Hobby Lobby a little bit better because I get more in the pack, and plus the quality of the greenery is a little bit better. So now I'm going to take my glittered out star, and I'm just going to simply attach it to the middle of my project with a little bit of hot glue, and we are completely done with this project. So simple, but so nice. It doesn't get much simpler than that, you guys. I love how this turned out. So let's move on to our third and final DIY, number 3. So again, I have some of this placemat, the buffalo check, excuse me, placemat left over, and this piece here is what I had left over from a large roll of plastic wrap. But if you can't find this, you can always use a regular paper towel roll, or you could use anything else that you could find that will give you the same shape. You could also use and do this technique that I'm going to show you with a glass vase or two of them glued together. Sorry about that DIY number 3 being a little late, you guys. So now you see, I'm simply taking this buffalo check placemat with the rest of it that I had left, and I'm just simply attaching this around the very center portion of my cardboard tubing. Once this is done, I'm now going to bring in this really nice holiday hat, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to disassemble it. So to disassemble it, I am simply going to take it at the seams, cut out a few of the stitches, and then I can tear away the fur from the actual snowflake fabric. And to go ahead and disassemble the fur fabric, I'm going to go ahead and open this up, and then the seam where it connects, again, I'm going to open that seam up and just rip it open. And while I have it open, I'm going to go ahead and cut this down the middle where that crease was formed at. And this will give me 2 pieces of fur. So now for the snowflake material, again, the seams where they meet, I'm just going to open that up and I'm going to rip those seams open. And I'm going to cut away the actual snowball pom-pom at the top of the hat. So now once that's cut away, I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to lay the two of these pieces of fabric on top of one another. And I'm going to go ahead and cut a nice strip of this fabric out. Again, not throwing away that excess material. So now you see where the two sides meet up and they form an actual triangular shape. What I'm going to do is lay down a straight line of hot glue and I'm going to place the right sides together. But then I'm also going to open up that seam as you see me doing. I'm just going to finger press it. That's what it's called, finger pressing. I'm going to cut away the excess so that I have one seam. To open this seam up, yes, I do so, you guys, but to open this seam up, I'm simply going to take some hot glue, place it on either side, and just place the actual material that formed the seam to press it open. So as you see, now we have one continual piece. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and do some trimming. And by trimming this, I'm going to make sure that it is nice and straight. So it takes out that curviness in it so that we have a nice straight piece of fabric to work with. So now to move on with the project, I am simply going to go ahead now and take this hexagon piece of wood and this round wooden this round wooden plaque from the Dollar Tree. What I'm going to do is go ahead and take my sandpaper and make sure that the rough edges are gone. This will help, of course, to smooth it, but it will also help our antiquing wax or stain to adhere to it a little bit better. So now I'm going to take my cardboard tubing and I'm going to hot glue this to the very center on either end of both of my wooden pieces. Now, I know some would go ahead and stain this or paint it first. Me, I didn't want to do that because I wanted to make sure that I was going to have a nice, secure bond between the wood and that cardboard piece. And besides, when I go to actually stain it, I don't have to worry about getting it on my buffalo check material because the cardboard tubing is still showing. So again, I'm going to take my antiquing wax and I'm just simply going to go ahead and just rub this into the wood, making sure that that wood grain is really coming out beautifully. So once both portions have been done, I am now going to bring in that strip of material that we went ahead and we cut nice and straight. I am simply going to start in the back of the project where the two ends of the buffalo check placemat meet. That's where I'm going to start gluing this piece of material. So what I did was I laid a foundation of that hot glue down, carefully placing it where I want it to be in the middle. And if you guys have not guessed, this is going to be a nice candle holder. So now I'm going to go ahead and take my glue and just simply continue gluing this right in the middle portion of that tubing. Now, once you get down to the end, what I'm going to do is go ahead and taper those ends, lay a little bit of hot glue to the end of it, fold it over. This will give us a really nice finish to the back of it because this material, I did notice, can be a nuisance when it begins to fray. I'm loving how this is coming out so far. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dress this up a little bit more. Now you could use, again, bling wrap, diamond wrap, beads, whatever your liking and your choosing may be. I'm actually going to bring in some of this nautical rope, and I am just simply going to go ahead and trim either sides of this material. And I feel like it's going to give it a frame, but of course, again, it's always going to add a little bit more texture and dimension to the project. All right, now we have that nautical rope lining either sides of that material. Now you can see what I'm talking about by the texture that it adds. So now I'm bringing in my white fur material that I cut away from that hat. What I want to do now is it was a little bit too wide for me. So what I simply did was taking some hot glue and I just simply went ahead and laid a strand of that down, folded it over, and that gives me a double layer of this fur material. That way you're not able to see straight through it and see the buffalo check underneath it. So I'm just going to start by gluing one end, and I'm going to glue this around um, on either end of my project, or my candle holder that is. And this is really going to brighten it up. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on both ends, and then I'm going to show you all three of my projects put together, you guys. So here is my sign all decked out with my greens, my pine cones, and my berries. Here is that simple but elegant sign with the Star of David. Not Star of David, excuse me, with the guiding star on the front of it. And I think that our candle holder came out. As always, be blessed.